This is the iceberg of the most disturbing events ever caught on camera. From an influencer's celebration, meant for fame and revelry, ending in death's cold grip, to suitcases stuffed with dismembered bodies, adrift in a river's unforgiving current. We start at the tip of the iceberg, but the deeper we go, the darker it gets. Level 1. Nightmare behind the doorbell camera. On the night of July 21, 2021, in a quiet Las Vegas neighborhood, a woman alone in her home heard a loud banging at her door. When she checked her smart Ring doorbell camera, she saw an unfamiliar man standing nervously and suspiciously at her doorstep. Through the camera's speaker, she asked who he was and what he wanted. The response she got froze her in place. The man, later identified as Christopher Sams, 40, said in a cold, terrifying voice, "I'm looking for a girl in this house. I want to rape her and kill her." He repeated this horrific statement several times, even claiming he had a knife and a gun.
Yeah, can you hear me? What I'm looking for is for the girl that's in the house to come out here because I'm going to rape her and kill her.
The entire chilling conversation was recorded by the doorbell camera. The woman, terrified, didn't respond, immediately called the police and hid in a corner of her house. Christopher Sams, seeing no one open the door, began circling the house, searching for a way in. Fortunately, all doors and windows were locked. Minutes later, police sirens echoed through the neighborhood, and Sams fled. But his face and threatening words were clearly captured on the doorbell camera footage. Las Vegas police shared the video on social media, asking the public to help identify this dangerous individual. The video quickly went viral, viewed by thousands. It didn't take long for Christopher Sams' identity to be confirmed, and he was arrested. This incident showed how technology can come to our aid in dangerous moments, and how a simple smart camera can provide undeniable evidence for police, preventing a tragedy. For that woman, that night was a real nightmare, but for society, it was a stark warning that danger is always lurking, even at the doors of our safe homes. The Hungry Ghost Festival. Around August 2023, an unknown forest in China. There's always a fear of the dark, isn't there? That fear when you're alone and hear a strange sound, your heart leaps into your throat. Now imagine willingly stepping into that fear on a night when they say the gates to the world of the dead swing open. That's exactly what a YouTuber named Xiaolong did. The story revolves around the Hungry Ghost Festival in China, an ancient and significant tradition. The Chinese believe that in the 7th lunar month, spirits and ghosts visit the world of the living. To appease them and keep them at bay, people prepare food and burn paper money. During this time, many avoid going out at night or doing major tasks like moving house. But Xiaolong, like any thrill-seeking YouTuber, decided to do the exact opposite. He grabbed his camera and headed to a forest that locals say is cursed, near an abandoned cemetery. His goal? To connect with spirits. The video Xiaolong posted starts off calm. The chirping of crickets, the faint beam of his flashlight dancing across gnarled tree trunks, and the sound of his own breathing. He begins calling out to spirits, asking them to give a sign. Minutes pass, and nothing happens. At first, viewers might think this is just another dull, overhyped video. But then, everything changes. A scream-like sound echoes from the depths of the forest. Xiaolong freezes.
听他在说话了。出来！
He points his flashlight toward the sound, but nothing is visible. The sound repeats, again and again, each time closer. Now terrified, Xiaolong tries to flee. As he runs, his camera shakes wildly, capturing blurry images. In one fleeting moment, for a fraction of a second, a tall black shadow is seen among the trees. The video was viewed millions of times and sparked heated debates. Many believe it's the most authentic recording of a ghost ever captured. They point to Xiaolong's genuine fear and that eerie shadow as proof. They argue no actor could fake such raw terror. On the other hand, skeptics claim it's all staged. Xiaolong's friends could have been hiding in the forest, making noises, and the shadow might be nothing more than an optical illusion or a trick of light and shadow. Whatever the truth, one thing can't be denied. By toying with one of his people's oldest beliefs, Xiaolong managed to capture a fear that resonated with millions. When the sea swallowed the world. December 26, 2004, 7:58 a.m. local time, off the western coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. It was one of those Christmas mornings that felt like paradise for thousands of Western tourists, and just another day for millions of locals. The sun had just risen, and the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean gently lapped at the sandy shores of Thailand, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and India. Children ran on the beaches, fishermen prepared their nets, and young couples strolled hand in hand. But beneath this deceptive calm, 30 kilometers below the ocean's surface, the Earth's crust was preparing for a deadly wail, one that would silence laughter forever. The initial trigger wasn't a tremor, it was a roar. The Earth shook for nearly 10 minutes, the longest duration ever recorded. A 9.1 magnitude earthquake tore apart a massive fault between two tectonic plates, releasing energy equivalent to 23,000 atomic bombs. This quake displaced the ocean floor, setting an unimaginable mass of water into motion. But on the surface, something strange happened. The sea suddenly retreated at an alarming speed, as if the ocean was taking a deep breath. Hundreds of meters of shoreline were exposed, fish gasping on wet sand. This was the turning point of the catastrophe. Curiosity overpowered fear. Locals and tourists, unaware of the monster approaching, ran excitedly to the shore to witness the rare phenomenon and collect shells. There was no tsunami warning system in the Indian Ocean to tell them that this deep breath was the prelude to a devastating scream. The first wave appeared on the horizon like a tall, black wall. At first, it was a thin line, but it quickly grew taller and larger. The curious silence on the shore gave way to a murmur of fear, then screams of terror. It was too late to escape. The wave's roar was like a freight train not passing by, but crushing you. With heights up to 30 meters, the waves slammed into the coast with unstoppable force. The sound of palm trees snapping was like matchsticks breaking. People's screams were lost in the deafening roar of water. The water swept away everything. Wooden huts, concrete hotels, cars, and most importantly, people. The sensation of choking, the salty, gritty taste of water mixed with mud and gasoline, and the heavy blows of debris hitting bodies were the last things many felt. The paradisiacal shores turned, in minutes, into a churning cauldron of black water, wreckage, and death. When the water finally receded, the face of the earth had changed forever. The scene was like a vast, open graveyard. Where beautiful hotels and colorful homes once stood, only muddy ruins and uprooted trees remained. The final toll was staggering and unbelievable. Nearly 230,000 people were killed or missing across 14 countries, with millions left homeless. The world's response was immense, but for those buried under debris or in the ocean's depths, it was far too late. Families were torn apart. Some searched for loved ones through photos and lists for years. The ocean, once a source of life and tranquility, showed it could become the cruelest executioner in a single moment. The earth heals its wounds slowly, but the absence of those 230,000 souls remains an eternal scar on humanity's memory. Level 2. The Fortunate Pedestrian in Azerbaijan. In June 2025, an elderly man in the Dubandi region of Azerbaijan found himself at the center of a terrifying incident on a highway, captured in a video that went viral and captivated internet audiences. The man, whose identity remains unknown, was recorded by an overhead highway camera as he began crossing the road. Holding a cane and moving painfully slowly, he appeared incapable of crossing even a simple city street without assistance. He makes it about halfway across when a car slows down and stops, waiting for the elderly man to cross the highway more easily. But everyone knows that suddenly braking in the middle of a 6-lane highway is far from sensible. Seconds later, another car speeding excessively in the adjacent lane slams into the stopped vehicle with tremendous force. The impact is so severe that the second car flips over entirely. The first car, which had paused for the troublesome pedestrian, is thrown to the side of the road, but sustains minimal damage. The most remarkable part of this incident, however, is the fate of the elderly pedestrian. With 2 cars catastrophically crashing in front of and behind him, he stood unscathed, without so much as a scratch. Miraculously, he survived what could have been a deadly disaster. According to reports, one of the drivers sustained serious injuries, making them the only casualty of this incident.
The sudden floods of Pakistan.
September 2022. Pakistan witnessed one of the most devastating natural disasters in its history. That year's monsoon rains, far more intense than usual, combined with the rapid melting of Himalayan glaciers, a deadly combination that unleashed floods of unimaginable destructive power. The mountainous region in northern, one of the areas hit hardest, felt nature's wrath in full force. Images released from the region resembled scenes from a catastrophic disaster movie. The raging Dubar River, swollen to a monstrous force, devoured everything in its path. In one of the most shocking videos, a large multi-story hotel built beside the river succumbed to the water's power. First, the building's foundations weakened, and then, in mere seconds, the entire structure collapsed like a house of cards, vanishing into the roaring waters. This was just one of thousands of buildings destroyed in the floods. The scale of the catastrophe was unimaginable. The worst floods in living memory have impacted more than 33 million people in Pakistan, meaning 1 out of every 7 Pakistanis. At the height of the crisis, it was said that 1/3 of Pakistan's land was underwater. Over 2 million homes were damaged or completely destroyed. Thousands of kilometers of roads and hundreds of bridges were wiped out, cutting off many villages from the outside world entirely. Agriculture, the main source of income for many, was obliterated, and millions of livestock perished. In total, over 1,700 people lost their lives in these floods, many of them children. This disaster, the deadliest flood in Pakistan since 2010, was one of the costliest natural disasters in world history. Experts believe these severe floods were a direct result of climate change. Global warming has caused glaciers to melt faster and rainfall patterns to become more intense and unpredictable. Videos like the collapse of that hotel in the mountains were just a fleeting glimpse of a massive national tragedy. These images showed the world the immense crisis Pakistan faced, and how in the blink of an eye, entire lives and livelihoods were swallowed by nature's fury. Rebuilding from this devastation will take years, but the deep wound these floods left on the soul of Pakistan's people may never fully heal.
Armed robbery of a taxi driver.
This incident occurred on March 7, 2016, in the city of Reading, Pennsylvania, USA. For Ralph Valletta, a taxi driver with 25 years of experience in Reading, Pennsylvania, that day started like any other. He picked up a passenger and began driving toward their destination. But he had no idea that this trip was about to become one of the most terrifying, yet luckiest moments of his life. Ralph was stopped at a red light when, suddenly, the passenger in the back seat pointed a gun at his head and demanded his wallet and phone with a threat. "If you don't want to die, give me everything you've got," the robber said to Ralph.
Hey, give me all your money, man.
Man, I don't.
Give me everything you got. Give me it now.
All right.
I need it now.
All right.
We can make this the easy way, or we can make this the hard way, man.
Everything I got, man.
Keep your hand where I can see him.
I just started.
What else you got?
In those moments filled with fear and panic, as Ralph tried to talk to the robber to calm him down, a miracle happened. The light turned green, but Ralph, caught up with the robber, didn't move. This failure to move caught the attention of a police car that, by pure chance, was stopped behind the taxi. Deputy Sheriff Terry Ely got out of his vehicle to see why the taxi wasn't moving. As he approached the driver's door, he heard Ralph's voice pleading, "Please don't shoot me. He's got a gun to my head." Officer Ely immediately realized the situation. He crouched down, drew his weapon, and aimed at the robber, who had covered his face with a hoodie. The robber, completely caught off guard and not expecting the police, surrendered immediately and was arrested without resistance. Ralph Valletta, in interviews after the incident, said, I've never been so happy in my life to see flashing police lights in my rearview mirror. This story is a remarkable example of being in the right place at the right time. Pure luck and the alertness of a police officer saved the life of a taxi driver and sent a dangerous criminal to prison. The suspect, later identified as Victor Martinez Herrera, was charged with armed robbery, kidnapping, and other crimes. Ralph's taxi dashboard camera captured every heart-pounding moment. The video shows us that sometimes a dutiful police officer's timely decision can prevent a tragedy. This story, a happy ending to a potentially devastating event, was made possible by luck, courage, and a sense of duty.
Level 3. Bloody Christmas.
December 22, 1090, Oakley, Utah, USA. This may be the most terrifying and shocking story you've ever heard. The Tide family had gone to their remote, snow-covered vacation cabin in Utah for the Christmas holidays to celebrate together. Unaware that two dangerous strangers had sinister plans for them, Von Taylor and Edward Deli, two career criminals recently released from prison, broke into the Tied family's cabin. When they entered, they saw Christmas gifts arranged under the tree.
I don't know. Okay. I don't think I got all of this.
In a horrific and bizarre act, Edward Deli picked up the family's camcorder and began filming Von Taylor.
I don't know. How am I supposed to find out?
Who, with gleeful cruelty, opened the family's Christmas presents and mocked them.
What is it? Baseball card.
This footage became a chilling testament to the pair's utter ruthlessness. Shortly after, Kay Teed, the mother, along with her mother Beth Potts and one of her daughters arrived at the cabin. Taylor and Deli attacked them with both women. Later, Ralph Tide, the father, arrived with another daughter. They too fell into the criminal's trap. Ralph was shot in the head, and, believing him dead, Taylor and Deli set the cabin ablaze, taking the two daughters, Lene and Tricia, as hostages. But Ralph miraculously survived. In his critical condition, he made it to a car and pursued the criminals. After a long chase, police intervened, arresting Taylor and Deli and rescuing the girls. In court, Von Taylor was sentenced to death, and Edward Deli received life imprisonment. Ralph T.H.'s testimony, as a survivor of the attack, played a crucial role in their conviction. The video Deli recorded of opening the gifts was presented in court as one of the most shocking pieces of criminal evidence in history. This story is of an innocent family whose Christmas celebration was turned into a living hell by two human monsters.
The Vancouver seaplane crash.
June 8, 2024. Location: Cole Harbour, Vancouver, Canada. Cole Harbour, in Vancouver, Canada, is one of the busiest and most beautiful ports in the world where seaplanes come and go like taxis. But on June 8, 2024, this picturesque scene turned into a nightmare. A DHC-2 Beaver seaplane, operated by Harbour Air with 5 passengers and 1 pilot, was taking off for a scenic flight. At the same time, a small recreational boat, with several people aboard, was cruising in the same area. Neither of them knew that in just moments they would be inches from death. The seaplane was gaining speed to lift off from the water when it suddenly collided with the motorboat. Videos captured from various angles showed the horrific moment of impact. The seaplane caught on the boat, its nose plunging violently into the water. The boat, too, was severely damaged. Within seconds, chaos engulfed the scene. Terrified passengers from the seaplane and the boat's occupants found themselves in the water. Fortunately, the response from nearby boats and emergency services was swift. Small boats rushed to the scene to assist. All 6 people on the seaplane, the pilot and 5 passengers, were rescued unharmed, with no serious injuries. But the situation was different for the boat's occupants. 2 of them, due to the force of the collision, were injured and immediately taken to the hospital. The incident raised many questions. The area where the crash occurred was a designated zone for seaplane takeoffs and landings. Maritime and aviation regulations in such areas are extremely strict, with planes typically having the right of way. Investigations began to determine why the recreational boat was in the seaplane's takeoff path at that critical moment. Was it human error? Was the boat's captain unaware of the regulations? Or was the issue something else entirely? In the end, it was determined that the recreational boat's lack of awareness of the right-of-way caused the incident. This crash was a miracle in that it claimed no lives, but it served as a serious wake-up call for Vancouver Port authorities to review traffic regulations in this busy waterway and prevent such dangerous incidents in the future.
Gas station explosion disaster.
On Friday, October 22, 2004, Raymond Nichols was filling his car's gas tank at a station in Canton, Ohio, USA. Like anyone else, he was lost in thought, his mind elsewhere while pumping gas. Inside the car, his wife Tracy and their 2 children waited for him to finish so they could head to Lone Star Steakhouse for a memorable family dinner. Everything seemed normal, ordinary and fine until, seconds later, an unexpected and horrific event shattered his thoughts. A Ford, speeding at an alarming rate, crashed directly into the gas pump Raymond was using. The pump was ripped from its base and immediately burst into flames. Raymond, however, wasn't worried about his car burning. His only thought was saving his 7-year-old daughter Allison, seated in the back where the fire was spreading. He later recounted in an interview. Raymond said that when he saw the tape, "I was kind of shocked by it because the pump came so close to hitting me, and I barely felt the pump at all. It kind of pushed me forward, but I didn't even realize how close I was." He quickly pulled Allison and his 5-year-old daughter Madison out of the car with Tracy's help, and they fled without looking back, wasting no time. Even drivers at nearby pumps sped away, fearing an imminent explosion that could endanger their lives or property. On the other side, the Ford's driver, Angela Garcia, a 22-year-old woman, got out of her car and fled the scene. 2 days later, police arrested her. She claimed she didn't know what caused her to lose control of the vehicle, but admitted to fleeing in panic. Notably, the Nichols family revealed they had been delayed at another gas station earlier, prompting them to switch to this one, a choice that their lives. Fortunately, no one sustained serious injuries in this incident.
Level 4. First fatal date.
On the night of August 4, 2021, in North Bergen, New Jersey, a young couple, Luis Fernando Zavala, 24, and Alexis Rodriguez, 27, went out for their first date, a thrilling night meant to spark a love story, but tragically, it ended in disaster. Around 2 a.m., a police officer noticed Luis's car swerving and speeding recklessly, and pulled them over. The officer gave them a stern warning that their actions were dangerous and could cost them or others their lives.
I know. That's why I stopped them. Ma'am, that's why I stopped them. Have a nice night, okay? Yeah, that's what I'm stopping you for. Reckless driving, careless driving, speeding, and the lights you ran, okay?
Footage from the officer's body camera shows that Luis and Alexis didn't take the warning seriously. And even after the police left, they seemed to continue their high-speed driving, as if fate was cruelly writing a horrific script for them. Less than 15 minutes after the warning, that same Kia Stinger was hurtling toward an intersection at breakneck speed. In a split second, Luis lost control, and the car crashed into an 18-wheeler truck passing through its lane. The impact was so devastating that Luis's car was nearly crushed under the truck, and both Luis and Alexis died instantly. This bitter tragedy was a wake-up call for everyone. A single bad decision, a moment of thoughtlessness, ignoring a warning, can turn a romantic date into a gruesome crime scene. The families and friends of Luis and Alexis were left in shock and disbelief. Their Instagram pages filled with condolence messages and photos of their vibrant, youthful lives. This incident serves as a reminder that the thrill of speed isn't worth gambling with death. One small mistake is enough to end everything forever, leaving only a bitter memory and a vast empty void.
One step from death in the Grand Canyon.
July 2020. One of the 7 natural wonders of the world. A chasm over 1.5 kilometers deep carved into the Earth's crust by the Colorado River over millions of years. Every year, millions of people come to the edge of this majestic canyon to witness a view that takes their breath away. They come to take photos. A photo that can capture even a fraction of this grandeur and preserve it forever. But there's a chilling question. How much is a photo worth? Is it worth risking your life for one more like? or a more thrilling shot? For some, the answer to this question has cost them their lives. Here, in the Grand Canyon, many tragic stories have unfolded. Stories that began with a smile for the camera and ended with a fatal fall. One such story is that of Maria Salgado Lopez, a 59-year-old woman, in July 2020. She was walking along a trail near Mather Point, one of the most popular viewpoints in the park's south rim. Like thousands of other tourists, she wanted to take a memorable photo. She strayed from the main safe trail and approached the canyon's edge. No one knows exactly what happened.
Why you don't go down there? Why did you go down there? Why would that? That's why everybody's sitting over there. They don't want to take a picture. And then we fall, and then somebody gets hurt. That's why you don't go down there. That's why there's no trail down there. Oh my God.
Did her foot slip? Did she take a misstep backward? All we know is that in a single moment, she lost her balance and, in the eerie silence of the canyon, plummeted hundreds of feet to her death. By the time rescue teams reached her, it was far too late. You might think this is a rare occurrence, but sadly it's not. Every year, several people lose their lives in the Grand Canyon due to falls, and many of these incidents happen while taking photos. It's as if the temptation to get closer to the edge, to capture that perfect shot, overpowers the instinct for survival. But the story doesn't always end in tragedy. Sometimes luck, or perhaps a miracle, prevents disaster. The Grand Canyon, with all its deceptive beauty, is a wild and dangerous place. No barrier can prevent a moment of carelessness. This great canyon reminds us that sometimes the best views should be admired from a safe distance, and no photo in the world is worth a single misstep.
The collapse of the Arecibo telescope.
Puerto Rico, 2020. The Arecibo Observatory, one of the largest and most iconic radio telescopes in the world, stood proudly in Puerto Rico. With its 305-meter diameter, since its commissioning in 1963, it played a pivotal role in advancing astronomy, studying planet radio signals, and searching for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI. Its unique design, with a fixed dish and a suspended receiver, allowed for precise observation of radio waves from the depths of the cosmos. But every rise comes with a fall. The alarm bells for Arecibo rang in 2017, when Hurricane Maria struck. The storm damaged the cables supporting the 900-ton platform suspended above the dish. But that wasn't the end of the story. Bad luck seemed to cling to this old giant of astronomy. In August 2020, one of the auxiliary cables snapped, tearing a 30-meter gash in the dish. Engineers were assessing and planning repairs when, in November, one of the main cables gave way, leaving little hope. The National Science Foundation, with a heavy heart, announced that repairing the telescope was no longer feasible, and it would have to be decommissioned forever. But Arecibo didn't wait for human decisions. On the morning of December 1, 2020, fate took matters into its own hands. The massive 900-ton platform, with all its grandeur and weight, plummeted from a height of 150 meters, crashing into the iconic dish and reducing it to a heap of twisted metal. Fortunately, the area had been evacuated, so no one was injured, but the global scientific community's heart broke. This wasn't just the collapse of a structure, it was the end of an era when Arecibo was our window to the unknown. Now all that remains of that iron giant are its memories and discoveries, and these dramatic images showing how a lifetime of effort and glory crumbled in mere seconds, joining the pages of history.
Level 5.
The last performance of a rapper. On the afternoon of November 21, the city of Waukesha, Wisconsin, was immersed in joy and excitement. People had gathered in the streets to watch the annual Christmas parade. Music groups, dancers, and families with smiles were marching along, and no one could have imagined that this joyful celebration would turn into the scene of one of the most horrific deliberate attacks in the city's history. Around 4:40 p.m., a red SUV barreled through police barriers at high speed, cowered straight into the crowd of parade-goers. The driver was Darrell Brooks Jr., 39, a not-so-successful rapper known by the stage name Mathboy Fly, with a long history of crimes from drug addiction to domestic violence. With utter ruthlessness, Brooks drove the vehicle into the crowd as if they were mere lifeless obstacles in his path. The sound of screams and cries replaced the cheerful parade music. In this brutal attack, 6 people were killed, one of them an 8-year-old child, and over 60 others were injured. One shocking detail is that the same red SUV used in the attack had previously appeared in one of Darrell Brooks's own music videos. Brooks fled the scene after the massacre, but was quickly arrested by police. In court, he displayed highly erratic and unbalanced behavior, even choosing to represent himself, which made the trial chaotic and drawn out. Ultimately, he was convicted of this horrific crime and sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Darrell Brooks received 6 consecutive life sentences plus more than 700 additional years in prison for Waukesha Christmas Parade. This attack not only plunged the small city of Waukesha into mourning, but also showed, once again, how one person's pent-up rage and hatred can lead to an irreparable tragedy for dozens of innocent people.
The dream that vanished.
Chester Street, England. On a summer afternoon on June 23, 2006, a giant inflatable art installation called Dream Space in Riverside Park, Chester Street, in northeast England. Designed by artist Maurice Aegis, this vibrant plastic maze allowed people to walk inside and enjoy a play of light and color. But that day, a sudden strong gust of wind tore the structure from its moorings, lifting it into the air. At the moment of the incident, about 30 people, including several children, were trapped inside the inflatable structure. Dream Space, now out of control, spun through the air and crashed violently into the ground and a CCTV pole. In this horrific incident, 2 women, Elizabeth Collings, 68, and Claire Firmedge, 38, lost their lives after being thrown from the structure, and 13 others were injured. Subsequent investigations revealed that the art installation was secured with inadequate ropes and an insufficient number of pegs, with no proper risk assessment conducted for adverse weather conditions. Maurice Aegis, the creator, was tried for manslaughter, but the jury could not reach a verdict. However, he was fined for breaching health and safety regulations. The Chester Street Council and the event organizers were also found liable and ordered to pay compensation to the victims. The tragedy, captured by CCTV cameras, drew significant media attention and sparked serious discussions about safety standards for public events and temporary structures. Dream Space, meant to be a space for dreaming and enjoyment, became a nightmare that claimed the lives of 2 innocent people and left a bitter memory in the town's history forever. This incident proved once again that in any project, especially those involving human lives, safety must always be the top priority. Maurice Aegis, the artist behind the work, passed away 3 years after the tragedy.
The Great Denver Tornado.
On June 15, 1988, a ferocious tornado loomed over the skies of Denver, Colorado, USA. America had experienced many storms, but this one was unprecedented in its intensity and magnitude. Around 4 p.m., the storm grew larger and larger, advancing toward the city's main areas. Many residents were fleeing to find safe shelter, but journalists, weather analysts, and photographers were among those braving the chaos, eager to capture stunning yet terrifying images of this natural phenomenon. A local resident from the heavily damaged Broadway area, in an interview, spoke of his luck in surviving the disaster. He recounted how a tree he deeply cherished was tossed around like a drunken man by the storm and ultimately destroyed. Many people lost things both small and significant, from pets and cars to, in some cases, the complete destruction of their homes. In the streets, overturned and crushed vehicles, some with occupants, were a haunting sight. Tornadoes, when seen from afar in the sky, appear captivating and beautiful, but as they near the ground, they unleash deadly devastation. In another interview, weather analyst Mike Silva described how, during the event, he and a photographer managed to get within 550 meters of the tornado by helicopter to capture clear, striking images. He explained that while this was extremely dangerous, it was also thrilling, sending his adrenaline soaring. That day, cameras even recorded multiple tornadoes merging, causing widespread damage to Denver's residents. Storms may be more dangerous on the ground than in the air, at least. That's what Mike Silva believes, as he feels compelled to chase every tornado and report on it up close. At the end of his interview, he said, "Trust me, I've seen all kinds of weather, but nothing compares to chasing a tornado."
Level 6. The Nepal earthquake.
11:56 a.m., Saturday, April 25, 2015. An ordinary day in Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. People were at work, tourists were visiting ancient temples, and climbers were preparing to conquer Everest. No one knew that in just seconds, the ground beneath their feet would shake violently, unleashing one of the worst disasters in the country's history. An earthquake measuring 7.8 on the Richter scale, at a shallow depth of 8.2 kilometers, struck a region near Kathmandu. The tremors lasted about 50 seconds, were enough to destroy a lifetime of effort. Buildings collapsed like dominoes. Ancient temples and UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including Kathmandu's Durbar Square and the 9-story Dara Hara Tower, were reduced to piles of rubble. Streets were filled with bricks and concrete, and thick dust blanketed everything. The disaster wasn't limited to the capital. In rural and mountainous areas, the situation was even worse. Entire villages were flattened, and landslides blocked roads, making rescue operations nearly impossible. Perhaps the most tragic part of this catastrophe occurred at the highest point on Earth, Mount Everest. The earthquake triggered a massive avalanche at Everest Base Camp, marking the deadliest incident in the mountain's history, claiming the lives of 22 climbers and trapping hundreds more in the mountains. The final toll of this horrific disaster was staggering. Nearly 9,000 people lost their lives, and over 22,000 were injured. Hundreds of thousands were left homeless, and the country's infrastructure was utterly devastated. Powerful aftershocks continued for weeks, keeping fear and panic alive in people's hearts. Scientists had warned for decades that Nepal, due to its unique geological position, was at risk of a deadly earthquake. But shoddy construction and inadequate preparedness caused the disaster to reach far greater proportions. Videos captured by security cameras and ordinary people during the earthquake depict nature's destructive power and human vulnerability in the most heartbreaking way possible. This earthquake left a deep wound on Nepal's body and soul, one that would take years of rebuilding and international aid to heal. A scream in the silence of the ocean. December 15, 2022. The waters of the Atlantic Ocean, near the coast of Florida. Cruise ships are floating cities on the water. Steel giants designed to escape the monotony of daily life. Thousands of passengers, dozens of restaurants, pools, theaters, and shops. A complete world adrift on the vast ocean, promising passengers a carefree and luxurious vacation. The MSC Meraviglia is one such giant. A magnificent floating hotel taking its passengers on a dreamlike journey through the Caribbean waters. But on one of the final days of the trip, as the ship was returning to Port Canaveral, Florida, this floating paradise became the scene of a silent and bitter tragedy. It was around 5 a.m. Most passengers were asleep in their cabins. The ship glided through the dark ocean waters like a calm giant. In this pre-dawn silence, something happened that no one witnessed. A 36-year-old woman, for reasons that were never clarified, fell from the ship's deck into the sea below. No scream was heard, no warning was given. She simply vanished into the darkness and vastness of the ocean, as if the water had swallowed her whole. The first alarm sounded when her companions noticed her absence. Suddenly, the ship's calm was shattered by an emergency announcement. Code Oscar, Code Oscar. Man overboard.
And we performed an immediate search and rescue operation. The U.S. Coast Guard was there to escort us with a boat and a helicopter. And due to fatal injuries, we learned that the passenger has passed away. We are offering our full support to the authorities who are all involved in this matter, and I know I speak on behalf of all of us on this ship right now.
This is a code no cruise passenger ever wants to hear. It means someone has fallen into the sea. Immediately, emergency protocols were activated. The ship turned around and returned to the area where the fall was suspected to have occurred. The crew used specialized cameras and powerful spotlights to search the water's surface for any sign. The U.S. Coast Guard launched an extensive search operation with boats and helicopters. But the ocean is a merciless beast. Finding a single person in its boundless expanse is like finding a needle in a haystack. For the other passengers awakened from sleep and peering out their windows, the scene was surreal. Their pleasure cruise had transformed into the hub of a desperate rescue operation. They saw crew members with worried faces, searching, and the question on everyone's mind was, is there any hope? As hours passed, hope dwindled. The water's temperature, ocean currents, and the vastness of the area were all against the missing person. Because the ship was near Port Canaveral, Florida, international regulations required passengers to disembark at the port. But the prolonged operation prevented a full evacuation, sparking chaos in the ship's hulls, turning passengers against one another. Finally, hours later, the search reached its most tragic conclusion. The woman's body was found by the Coast Guard. The ship's captain, with a somber voice, announced the news to all passengers over the loudspeakers, asking everyone to pray for the woman's family.
Unfortunately, despite the rapid rescue operation, the passenger sustained fatal injuries, and we just learned she passed away. We are offering our full support to the authorities who are involved in this matter. I know I speak on behalf of all of you when I say our prayers are with the person and their family.
The atmosphere, once filled with laughter and music, was now steeped in silence and sorrow. This incident was a tragic end to a dream voyage, reminding everyone that even in the safest and most controlled environments, life can be incredibly fragile.
Tornado in Taiwan.
Nature sometimes reveals its furious and unpredictable side. On August 9, Taiwan was hit by one of the most powerful storms in recent years. This storm, with winds nearing 200 kilometers per hour and torrential rains, caused widespread destruction. But one of the most terrifying moments of this storm was captured by a dashboard camera in a moving car. In this video, we see a white car driving along a road when suddenly, a small but incredibly powerful tornado appears out of nowhere. Within seconds, the tornado lifts the white car off the ground like a toy and hurls it out of sight. The car completely disappears from the camera's view, and the fate of its occupants remains shrouded in mystery. After this incident, a woman is seen by the roadside thrown to the ground by the tornado. This tornado was a direct result of Typhoon Sodalor. Massive tropical storms, or typhoons, often bring other dangerous weather phenomena, like small tornadoes. These tornadoes, though short-lived, can be incredibly destructive. Typhoon Sodalor in Taiwan has killed 28 people and left more missing. More than 500 flights and nearly 200 train rides have been canceled as a result of the storm. After Taiwan, the storm moved toward China, where it killed 14 people and led to the evacuation of thousands from coastal areas. This video is a shocking reminder of nature's devastating power. These images show us how vulnerable humanity remains, despite all its technological advancements, in the face of nature's wrath. This video is not only a record of a natural disaster, but also a serious warning for us all to always be prepared for such events.
Level 7. Earthquake at the Bangkok Hotel.
In March 2025, a CCTV video from a hotel in Bangkok, Thailand, was uploaded to YouTube. At the start of the video, everything seems perfectly normal and serene. The camera captures a balcony on one of the hotel's floors, showing a pool nestled within it. A young couple, a man and a woman, are lounging in the water, enjoying the city view from that height and soaking up the sun. Nearby, a man, whose relationship to the couple is unclear, is also visible by the pool. In the midst of the calm and quiet captured in the video, the man suddenly stands up, as if he sensed something unusual, something unsettling in that moment. It's as though he noticed a shift in the atmosphere, though he doesn't quite know what it is. At first, the couple in the pool pays no attention to his movement, but just seconds later, something happens that snaps them to alertness. The water in the pool suddenly becomes restless, slowly at first, then rippling and surging toward the couple like ocean waves. Moment by moment, the water's movement grows faster, transforming the tranquil scene from minutes before into a tense, stress-filled chaos in mere seconds. The couple, along with the stranger, realize it's no longer safe to stay. They quickly rush into the building. It soon becomes clear that it wasn't just the pool water that was disturbed. This was merely a glimpse of an earthquake that struck Bangkok at that moment. The pool water poured over the building's edge like a waterfall. As everything began to shake with increasing intensity, the camera footage abruptly cuts off and ends. According to media reports, the earthquake registered 7.7 on the Richter scale, and its impact was felt even in neighboring areas like Myanmar. A strong 7.7 magnitude earthquake rocked the Thai capital on Friday, causing buildings to sway and cascade water from rooftop pools onto the streets below. The earthquake is believed to be relatively shallow, at 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles deep, with the reported epicenter in neighboring Myanmar. The Greater Bangkok area is home to more than 17 million people, many of whom live in high-rise apartments.
The killing ground of a Cypriot serial killer.
Near the village of Mitsuro in Cyprus lies a strange and terrifying place known as the Red Lake. Its eerie, unnatural red water, caused by mineral deposits and acidic runoff from an abandoned copper mine nearby, is highly toxic and dangerous. For years, the lake was merely a peculiar, slightly unsettling sight for locals and tourists. But in 2019, it became the center of one of the most horrific criminal cases in Cyprus's history. It all began in April 2019. A German tourist, photographing another abandoned mine nearby, stumbled upon a strange object inside a mine shaft. After police investigation, it was revealed to be the decomposed body of a woman stuffed inside a suitcase. This discovery was the first clue to a much larger nightmare. The investigation led police to suspect Nikos Metaxas, an army officer. He quickly confessed to the murder, but this was only the beginning. Metaxas admitted that this wasn't his only killing, and that he had disposed of other victims' bodies in the Red Lake and nearby mine shafts. With his confessions, an extensive search operation began at the Red Lake. Divers, working in the highly dangerous and toxic waters, started their grim task. They eventually recovered 2 more suitcases from the lake's depths. Each contained a body. This was just the start of the horrific discoveries. In total, the remains of 7 victims were found, 5 women and 2 young children, the daughters of 2 of the victims. All the victims were migrant women from the Philippines and Romania, who had come to Cyprus for work. Nikos Metaxas, later recognized as Cyprus's first serial killer, confessed to luring his victims through an online dating app called Badoo. He would arrange meetings with these women and then murder them. One of the most shocking pieces of evidence in the case was a drone video, recorded by a tourist over the Red Lake before the bodies were discovered. In the footage, a strange object resembling a suitcase is visible near the shoreline. At the time, no one paid it any attention, but it was later confirmed to be one of the suitcases containing a victim's body. The first victims were a 36-year-old Romanian woman, Libia Florentina Bunea, and her 8-year-old daughter, Elena, both killed in September. The second was Maricar Valtez Arqueola, a 31-year-old Filipina who disappeared in 2017. The last was Mary Rose Tiburcio, a 38-year-old Filipino migrant worker who was the final victim to die but the first to be found. This case plunged the entire nation of Cyprus into shock and sparked widespread criticism of the police. The families of these women had reported them missing, but because the victims were migrants, the police had not pursued the cases with urgency. The Red Lake of Mitsuro, once a curious tourist attraction, became a symbol of a national tragedy.
Crime in the shadow of fire.
Georgetown, Ontario, on February 17, 2021, in the quiet town of Georgetown. A house was consumed by flames. After the fire was extinguished, the bodies of the homeowners, Christina and Andre Rack, were found among the ruins. At first, it seemed like a tragic fire accident, but autopsy results revealed a horrifying truth. The couple had died before the fire. The police launched an investigation and uncovered a crucial clue by reviewing neighbors' CCTVs. A video showed that the night before the incident, an individual had hidden in the garage, waiting for Christina to arrive. As Christina drove into the garage, the person attacked her. This individual, Harrison Brown, a former employee of Christina's, had planned and executed this horrific crime out of a grudge against her. Brown, who had known Christina through a work relationship, killed her and her husband, then set the house ablaze to destroy evidence of his crime. But the detective's sharp work and evidence from the CCTV footage identified Brown as the prime suspect. He was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and arson. Ultimately, Harrison Brown confessed to Christina's murder and Andre's as second-degree murder, and was sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for 25 years. This horrific crime plunged the small, peaceful Georgetown community into shock, showing how resentment and hatred can lead to such a devastating tragedy. The Halton Regional Police thanked the public and neighbors for providing evidence that played a significant role in solving the case, expressing hope that the verdict would bring some solace to the victim's family and the community.
The Sologorsk dust storm.
Imagine a perfectly ordinary day when the sky above you suddenly decides to turn into night. Not an ordinary night, but an absolute suffocating darkness. This is exactly what happened to the people of Sologorsk, Belarus, on a day in mid-April 2015. That day, a cold front sweeping in from Ukraine brought with it an uninvited and terrifying guest, a massive wall of dust known as a haboob. This phenomenon, more common in desert regions like the Sahara or the Middle East. Videos captured by residents on their phones show scenes straight out of a Hollywood apocalypse film. A colossal dark wall of dirt and sand racing toward the city, swallowing everything in its path. In less than 60 seconds, bright daylight gave way to a dark, terrifying night. Panic-stricken people scrambled for shelter, and cars turned on their headlights as if it were midnight. This massive cloud of dust reduced visibility to near zero, making breathing a struggle. The haboob was the result of a specific meteorological phenomenon. When a cold front moves rapidly, it pushes the warmer, lighter air ahead of it upward, creating a downward flow that slams into the ground with force. This flow lifts vast amounts of loose soil and sand from the earth, forming a moving wall of dust. In Sologorsk's case, this dust came from the dry agricultural fields of Ukraine and southern Belarus. Despite the terrifying apocalyptic appearance of the storm, fortunately, no serious injuries or fatalities were reported. The damage was limited to a few buildings and public property, but what lingered was the shock and awe of the residents. They had seen with their own eyes just how powerful and unpredictable nature can be. This event was a stark reminder that even in the quietest corners of the world, you must always be prepared for nature's great surprises. The sky over Sologorsk eventually cleared, but the memory of that day, when day turned to night in a single minute, remains etched in the minds of its residents forever.